Good morning and welcome to Pod Up with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Shane Matthews, and we are joined by the Hall of Famer himself, Coach Steve Spurrier, in studio today. Coach, thanks for coming out.
Nice to be with you, Shane. I've been listening to your show a little bit, and glad to be on.
Yeah, well, Coach, let's first start. I mean, obviously, we're going to have a bunch of questions from fans today, but Saturday you were in the O'Connell Center, and they put Billy Donovan's name on the court. Obviously, 4 or 5 years ago, they put your name on Florida Field. It's now Steve Spurrier Field. Talk a little bit about what that meant and how you thought the celebration was Saturday night in the O'Connell Center.
Yeah, Shane, I got a chance to talk to Billy actually a little bit before his name officially went on the floor there at the Exact Tech Arena. And then I actually saw him a little bit afterwards down at Crescent Beach. He's got a place down there, and Jerry and I were actually there on the weekend. But anyway, I told Billy when they put my name on Florida Field, that was the greatest honor I've ever received and ever will receive. And he felt the same way about it. And it was really special, all of his players that came back. And as coaches, you've done a pretty good job as a coach if 10, 20 years later, your former players like to hang out with you. So hopefully you like to hang out with me a little bit.
I remember you saying that a long time ago that, if you're a good coach, a players type coach, you care about your players. Coach, the players will want to hang out with you, drink a beer, do things with you. And, I think you saw that from the former players that came back for Billy Donovan.
Yeah, it was a big turnout. And I remember when my name was put on Florida Field there in 2016. We had almost the whole 96 team came back and a bunch of early 90 guys also and later. So it was neat to see so many players come back when their coach is honored like this.
Coach, we had someone text yesterday knowing you were going to be on the show, and they wanted to know, you're back here. You've been back, 4 or 5 years now. You're the ambassador here at the University of Florida. They wanted to kind of know what that is all about. What is the job description of an ambassador?
Well, it's not too strenuous, but I tell you what, I do try to promote the University of Florida and keep up with all of our teams and academics and everything. And, man, we had a great weekend this past weekend in sports. But not only that, I heard on the news just recently, the University of Florida, they had like 48,000 applicants to get in school here.
Wow.
Kids coming as freshmen. And we can only take 7,000. So that means a whole bunch of people want to come to the University of Florida, and we can see why. We got the best state university, I think, in the nation here at Florida. And all of our sport teams, what a weekend for the golf teams. The men won the Gator Invitation, first time since 2011, I read. And here at University of Florida, Ricky Costello shot 13 under in 3 days.
That's pretty good.
And we won by 18 shots. And then the women's team won the All-State Sugar Bowl Classic in New Orleans, where they have the pro tournament at English Turn. So big win for them also. J.C. Deacon and Emily Glazer, they got their players really playing at a very high level. And then, of course, Mike White's basketball team beat Arkansas last night. He's right at the fourth winningest coach in all-time history here. And it's been here, 5 years?
This is year 5 for him.
Year 5, something like that. And Carmen Neubauer, women's basketball. Now, they've not been the highlight of our sports programs over the years, but they won at Missouri for the first time ever. And I always love, as a coach, doing something for the first time it's ever been done. So Carmen Neubauer and his ladies basketball team has done something never been done before. And baseball, of course, is undefeated right now. We got the SEC swim meet coming up. And our gymnastics team, Jenny Rollins, I think our lady gymnasts are first or second in the nation, somewhere like that. So all the teams are doing well. Scott Strickland's happy. Kent Fox, our president's happy. And we got to keep pushing, though. As Gators, we want to be the best we can in everything we do.
Absolutely. As Coach mentioned last night in the O'Connell Center, the Gators beat Arkansas 73-59. Keontae Johnson had a double-double. Baseball wins at JU. Baseball will be at McKeithen Stadium tonight. They play JU, and then a big weekend series. I think we're ranked number 2 in the country now, and I think Miami is now number 1 in the country, and we play at Miami this weekend. So that should be I'm actually going to have Steve Russell on the show on Monday to recap that weekend series. He'll be calling it. And also, if you're not familiar, Coach Spurrier, myself, and Steve Russell do a podcast in the fall called Inside the Huddle, and make sure you tune into that next fall. Coach, let's talk about real quick, the state of Florida football. Obviously, there were some rough times when Jim McElwain was here. Dan Mullen's hired from Mississippi State, comes in, wins 10 games in year one, wins 11 games last year. Your thoughts on what he's done, how he's turned it around so quickly?
Oh, been fantastic. And we still got room to grow, as we all know. But, yeah, what Dan Mullen and his staff has done is really remarkable, I think. The year before, I think we were, 4-7, something like that. We had
4-8.
4-8. I thought we had a hurricane out.
Well, you may be right. You may be right.
I had the hurricane out game. But anyway, yeah, to win 21 is really good, really good. But as all us Gators know, we got to beat those Georgia Bulldogs. And Coach Mullen and his staff, they all know that too. So I'm not saying anything that nobody knows. We want to win the SEC, and to do that, we got to win the division first. But to win 21, win 2 New Year's Day bowl games, shoot, that's really good. And I really like the coaching staff Dan has put together there. I really like the strength coach, Nick Savage. You realize the scores in the fourth quarter that we've been doing against these other teams.
We've dominated.
Yeah, we that's conditioning. And Nick Savage and Coach Mullen, all those guys really emphasize it, and it is a big part of the game. So we're looking forward to coming year. Kyle Trask is ready to return, I guess, as the quarterback, and we got some other guys there to give us a little change of pace if needed, and so forth. Here's what's sort of interesting about nowadays, Shane. Mike Bianchi down at Orlando, they have a Bianchi's banquet in July of every year. And back in 18, I think it was, he gave me like some kind of comeback award because I was going to coach the Apollos in the Alliance of American Football. But anyway, the College Player of the Year in the state of Florida, you know who it was?
In 18?
After the 18th season.
No clue.
It was Felipe Franks.
Oh, wow.
The college player in the state of Florida. Now the year before, the UCF quarterback, I think Mackenzie Milton was it. So that's where Felipe was. And then, of course, he had sort of a difficult game, but we beat Miami in the opener, and then he got hurt at Kentucky, and now he's transferred to Arkansas. It's just amazing sort of how fast things happen in sports nowadays. And we wish Felipe the best at Arkansas, and he's a talented player, as we've all agreed. But anyway, Kyle Trask and the defense, Todd Grantham, we're in good shape. And and like all of us Gators, we need to keep moving in the top direction.
Right. So speaking of Felipe transferring, and the transfer portal is the big thing in college football these days, do you like it? And do you think a kid should be able to transfer at least one time without having to sit out?
Yeah, I think he ought to get one shot. I'm not so sure that they get good advice on whether to leave or not. I think so many players, well, if I'm not playing my first or second year, I'm leaving. And really, they may not quite be ready, or they might be behind a really good player. And the grass is not always greener on the other side of the fence that they think it will be. So there's good transfers, and there's guys that transfer and say, man, I shouldn't have done that.
Do you think it's a way also that the coaches can kind of, I don't want to say cut a kid, but release him from a scholarship with any issues? Because let's just say with Dan Mullen coming in with his staff 2 years ago, there may be some kids on this roster that maybe don't fit their system, or they don't think they'll ever play, but you can't go yank his scholarship because that's bad in recruiting. But they can sit down in an exit meeting after spring ball or whatever and say, hey, we got, these 3 guys are ahead of you on the depth chart. We got this kid coming in. I'm not sure what your playing time is going to be. Kind of be a way to kind of get them out the door.
Well, you could encourage them to transfer. I don't think if you've offered them a scholarship, although scholarships are still 1 year renewable, so they're not 4-year scholarships. So if a kid's doing everything right and going to class and trying his best, I think most coaches would certainly keep that guy around.
Coach, we got a text here. He goes, Shane, I'd like to know if you ever changed a play that Coach sent in and what the response was to that change. Well, yes, we do. We always. He wanted us to have the perfect play called and gave us the freedom to change the play. Now, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't.
Yeah, the only one I can remember, and we've talked about it a bunch of times, we're playing LSU here in the swamp. We are ahead 28-13, and we are running out the clock to end the game. There's about 2 minutes or something like that. and we're down on about their 30-yard line, I think, something like that, 35-40. And we got a run play called to Eric Rett, and Shane audible to a hitch pass out there. And it got tipped or something at the line of scrimmage. Stopped the clock. And now we got 3rd and 7 or something like that. So I think we called another pass to hit it, and we miss it. So now we've stupidly stopped the clock. And LSU gets it, goes down and scores in like 45 seconds and makes the 2-point play.
I remember that.
Now it's 28-21, and now they get the onside kick. They're firing at the end zone to either tie us or beat us. And Monty Grove knocked down a wheel route on the last play we ended up winning 28-21. But to be up by 15 with like 2 minutes left and find a way to blow that game, that would have been painful. That would have been painful.
Bonehead
so
decision.
don't audible
Don't
when we're running the clock out.
Speaking of quarterback play, I think it's very interesting nowadays. If you go back, I can't remember what year it was, but Danny was playing very well, and you decided to start Eric Kresser in a home game, and then Kresser decides to set the school record for single game passing yards. What made you decide to start Eric Kresser?
Well, Eric had been here with Danny, same age. I guess that was 95, wasn't it? So they'd been here 4 years. Eric was redshirted a year, so he was able to go to Marshall and play his 5th year. But Eric, he was a wonderful young man and so forth. And pregame warm-ups, you probably watched both of them if you had. You were playing pro ball then.
But Kresser could throw it.
Oh, pregame warm-ups, I'd ask myself, am I playing the right guy? Because Kresser could zing that ball, perfect spirals all over the field. And Danny in pregame wasn't impressive. Right. But in the games, he was impressive. So anyway, I just asked Danny that day, we're playing Southern Miss, I think it was. I said, what do you think about letting Eric play a game? He's been a good backup here for, 3-4 years. And just let him have a game. And I said, we're going to beat these guys. We're ready to play. He said, that's fine with me, Coach. Eric deserves a chance to play. In fact, Eddie George at Ohio State later told me, he said, Coach, by letting Eric Kresser play, I think that helped me win the Heisman instead of Danny that year. And, of course, Danny got it the next year. But Danny was okay with it. That's just a kind of wonderful player Danny Warfel is. And, of course, Kresser, he set school record for passing yards. And I told Danny, I'll let you break it next year when we get – and I think he broke it at Arkansas
right.
The next year.
Coach, you're I think the only coach that won the Heisman and coached a Heisman winner. Talk a little bit about what it means to you, because you're one of the guys that is at the Heisman ceremonies every year. You're also part of the Hall of Fame there that whole week. Just how important that is to be a part of.
Yeah, that's just sort of a habit that Jerry and I, my wife, do every year. Go to the Hall of Fame ceremonies and then the Heisman. So it's neat to see a lot of the old guys and so forth. A lot of them have come back every year. Pete Dawkins, for example, I think he may be the oldest living one now. And Mike Garrett, I sit next to him, Southern Cal tailback, every year at the Heisman. And this year I got a chance to sit next to Joe Burrow. For some reason, the dais at the black tie dinner on Sunday night, they put Joe right next to the top line guys of the Heisman, former Heisman guys. And he's really a class young man, Joe Burrow. His dad is a coach, football coach, assistant coach, went to Nebraska and coaches at University of Ohio.
The Bobcats.
The Bobcats, yeah, Ohio University. So, but he resigned, took a year off to watch his son play, and what a year LSU and Joe Burrow had. As big a year as any team's ever had.
Yeah, no doubt about it. If you want to send a text, a question to Coach, you can send it on the Titan MRI text line. That's 352-353-7465. We're going to take our first time out here. Coach Spurrier's visit to Crime Prevention Studios is sponsored by Campus USA Credit Union. We'll be right back.
Hey, Coach. How can I help you today?
Just here for a deposit, Maggie. That's right. Everybody gets to start treatment at Campus USA. Join today.
Timeout! Timeout! Hey! Timeout! 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 There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Gators Dockside, wings, ribs, seafood, and beer. The best restoration, masters of disaster.
Bob in trouble, gets over. Oh, big hit.
Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility.
Our touchdown sponsors are Radware Promotional Materials, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator BTW, Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Miapa Latin Cafe, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Okita America Martial Arts and After School, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, UF Mover Guys, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa, Wrap Spot, Cold Stone Creamery, Gator Dominoes.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
Welcome back to Pot Up with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. You want to send a text, ask Coach a question on the Titan MRI text line, 352-353-7465. We have one right here. This is from Fred. He says, Coach, I heard you're getting inducted into the South Carolina Hall of Fame. How many Hall of Fames are you in now? About every one
I
of
don't
them, right?
know. I don't know. Yeah, it seems like the bowl games, they if you coached in one of the bowl games, they have a Hall of Fame. They bring a bunch of guys back all the time. So I did those rounds, I guess, in about the last 4 or 5 years, the Sugar Bowl, the Orange Bowl, the Gator Bowl this year. And we got beat in the Peach Bowl in Atlanta, but they had me come back into their Peach Bowl Hall of Fame, I guess, 2 years ago. But, yeah, I've been very, very fortunate, very blessed to be in a bunch of those kind of things, and just a lot of people along the way, coaches, players, teammates that have helped my career. And anyway, just very fortunate.
Yeah. We got a Facebook Live comment here. Larry B. asked, hey, Coach, what recruit was your most difficult to land at Florida?
Most difficult to land at Florida. Gosh, that's a hard one to answer. I don't think Danny Warfel was the most difficult, although he kept us waiting right till about 2 days before signing day, and I called him up, and he said he's coming to Florida. But let's see, most difficult to land. I don't know. Back in our day, a lot of the players would wait to signing day and, put the hat on or something like that. And I remember one year, I think it was the second year I was here, second or third year, we had about 7 guys that were going to sign on the last day. We didn't get any of them. About 5 of them went to FSU, and I think 1 to Georgia and 1 to Tennessee, something like that. And Bianchi, I remember, said it was a dark day in Gainesville that Wednesday. But it didn't slow us down. We had plenty of ball players with wonderful attitudes. So recruiting is very important, but it's not everything. It'll get you the players, but you got to get them motivated and make sure everybody's on the same team and you got that teamwork going.
And don't you think, recruiting today is crazy how it is, but with this new football facility that we'll be constructing once the baseball season ends, it's definitely going to help our recruiting here.
Yeah, I think it will. It has to. We've been behind in facilities, as we all know, and we're catching up. We're not there yet, but we are catching up. South Carolina, they've got about everything they'll need for the next 30 years up there now, as far as indoor facility, a brand new building, and new practice fields and so forth. So facilities are important, but they're not everything either.
That's true.
It all goes together, and our facilities, after about 2 years, we should be right there with the best.
Well, Coach, last year you came out of retirement and you went and coached the Orlando Apollos to a championship in the Alliance of American Football. Talk a little bit about that. Did you enjoy it? Do you wish you were still coaching?
Well, we were 7-1. So do you think I enjoyed it?
Yeah,
we were
you won.
Well, we were declared champs. Of course, the league went busted after 8 games, ran out of money. So our founders didn't quite have the funding that this new XFL has. They've got plenty of money, the new league now, and they got 3 television networks, Fox, ABC, and ESPN. So they're in good shape. They're in a lot better shape than we are. But, yeah, I did enjoy coaching the Apollos. Had a quarterback, Garrett Gilbert, a little bit like you, Shane. He's about 6'4", 6'3", 4". 2 a little heavier than you probably. Could run
heavier.
a little bit. He could run just a little bit, but he was an excellent passer. We had the leading receiver in the Alliance, Charles Johnson, played very well. And Dearness Johnson, the tailback, was one of the leading rushers. So I think we led the Alliance in scoring and total offense and all that, and managed to go 7-1. And the online betting site in Las Vegas called FanDuel, they declared us the champ. They wanted to pay off everyone, so they declared us the champ. So I guess we can claim it.
There you go. Bobby texts on the Titan MRI text line. Bobby from Tampa says, Coach, what are your thoughts about the XFL, and will you coach in the XFL? We want you in Tampa.
Well, Tampa's struggling right now. That's why they want somebody there. But they can turn it around. It's only 2 games in. In fact, my son Scotty is coaching with Bobby Stoops in Dallas and Renegades. And, man, they had a big win last week. They hadn't scored a touchdown in 6 quarters. And finally, the second half last week out in L.A., they got a couple touchdowns in the 4th quarter to win the game. My son Scotty coaches the punt return and the kickoff return. And they broke a couple of them and put the guys in scoring position. And they ran the ball to win the game, really. Artis Payne, the running back kid from Auburn.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they couldn't tackle him. He was fantastic there in the 4th quarter. So, sometimes you got to put the ball on the ground to win the game. And that's what Bobby Stoops and Hal Mummy, who is they call him the grandfather of the air raid offense, he put the ball on the ground and they won the game out there.
What do you think about the new rule changes in that league and how if your team wins, each player gets an extra $2,000?
Yeah, I like that. I think it puts more emphasis on guys playing their hearts out. They don't make a lot in the XFL. I think the salaries range from 65, 70,000 to 100,000, depending on maybe the quarterback or what position you play, what have you. So they put an extra 2,000 to the winner of every game. So 50 players, it's $100,000 to be won by the winning team. So it makes the players, I think, play a little harder, knowing they can get that extra $2,000.
Absolutely. We got a text on the Titan MRR text line from Daryl. He says, Coach, glad to see you on with Shane this morning. I think the best game I ever had the most fun at, was when we whipped the Dogs up in Athens.
Yeah, we had a pretty good run on the Dogs in Athens, and we need to return doing that. Obviously, when we got here in 1990, if we're ever going to win the SEC, we had to beat Georgia because they had knocked us out. I think every time we were in position, it's usually about the last or next to the last conference game over the years. And I think we were something like 5-15 in the last 20 years against the Dogs. And so we turned that around early. You and that 90 team, which was, it was I tell people all the time, man, I inherited a loaded team of ball players. The defense was 3rd in the nation the year before and returned 8 starters. So, and they were fantastic the whole year. So we had defense. You were here. I didn't know you were here when I came.
I didn't know who you were when you were coming.
Nobody told me you were here when I got here. But he was here sitting on the dummies, I think, the year before, and went on to win the job and become SEC Player of the Year twice in a row, which is not too bad for a guy that never played. But, gosh, we had the receivers here, Terrence Barber, McMillan,
Ernie
Mills,
Kirkpatrick.
And Trey Everett was good, too. Kirk at tight end. So those guys were all here ready to go. Eric Rett was here. Nobody knew much about him, but he became the all-time leading rusher in school history. So we threw it around well, but we also ran the ball. And I just still believe football is a combination of running and throwing. And I think our running game here at Florida is going to get better.
I do too.
Dan Mullen wants to run, trust me, but we just haven't made a whole bunch of yards running too much yet. So look for that to come back, though.
We got Coach Steve Spurrier in studio today in the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, taking your texts on 352-353-7465 on the Titan MR text line. Dalton from Brunswick wants to know who was better, the 2011 Gamecocks or the 1995 Gators?
2011 Gamecocks. Oh, I thought 2013 Gamecocks was maybe our best team up there, but they were all similar. We had 3 years of 11-2, and we managed to lose one game that kept us out of the SEC championship those years. And but we finished in the top 10, the only 3 times in school history. So those were really good teams. The 95 team here at Florida, oh gosh, very similar to the 96 team. We lost to what some people thought was the best college team in the history of college football, Nebraska. And I remember one time I asked Coach Osborne, was that 95 team your best team ever? And he said, well, I can't say that. All the other teams will get mad at me if I pick them, but I can say this. That 95 team I had was the only team, he said, I ever had that never had a close game. They clobbered everybody, and us included. Yeah.
Frank's from Sarasota on the Titan MR text line. He says, Coach, what was your greatest moment as a Florida Gator player and your greatest moment as a Florida Gator head coach?
As a player, oh gosh, that'd be I don't know what the greatest moment as a player, because we didn't win a championship. We managed to lose that one game to the Bulldogs my senior year, and did not win the championship, which we had a shot at. But as a player, golly, look back. I tell you, it was we beat FSU my junior year, Shane, and they scored with about 3 minutes left, and they had 17-16, and we put a drive together. And we had like a rollout pass called, and for some reason their guy jumped offside right before the snap. And so I got out there rolling around to the right, and Charlie Casey had run about 10, 11-yard out, and it was a free play. I saw the ref throw the flag, so I waved him toward the end zone, and I mean he took off perfectly, and I hit him in the back of the north end zone. I hit him back there for the touchdown, and so we beat FSU that's actually in '65, my junior year. So that was a fun one right there.
And your coaching obviously is the '96 national championship game.
Well, that was yeah. But some of those SECs, and really, when you look back on our 12 years, most thing I'm proud of, all of them were pretty good. We won between 9 and 12 games every year. We won at least 6 SEC games every year, 6 to 9 SEC. And some of those teams, I look back on our '98 team that Tennessee won it all. We lost in overtime up there. Stuff happened that fumbled on the 1-2 yard line. But that '98 team was really good. We messed up a few times, but they finished, I think, 4th in the nation, our '98 team. And even the '97 team that lost to Georgia and LSU, the only 2 times we lost those guys, they came back and won all the rest of their games and finished 4th in the country, that '97 team. So the '96 team, of course, gets a lot of the pub because they won a national championship. But these other teams, they finished in the top 5 and top 10 and really played the whole season without getting too demoralized because we had lost the game earlier in the year.
When you look at the SEC, obviously some new coaches, especially on the west side. I know a lot of media boys wish you were still going to SEC media days because they always had a kick out of some of your comments. What are your thoughts with old Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss and Mike Leach, where your son Steve Spurrier Jr. is a coach at Mississippi State now?
Well, it's going to be interesting, Shane. As we all know, everybody can't win. So right now, Lane Kiffin's undefeated at Ole Miss, and Mike Leach is undefeated at Mississippi State, and all the enthusiasm's there. Gosh, I remember when Arkansas hired their coach, Chad Morris. They had great optimism. and he went 2 years without winning an SEC game. So you don't know what's going to happen all the time till you kick it off and start playing and go from there. But man, that West Side and the East Side's getting better now also. So SEC's a tough league. You got to be really ready to play every week, and I still think that the best teams in the nation will be in the SEC.
We're going to take our second time out here. When we come back, we're going to talk about Coach's new restaurant coming to town. Coach Spurrier's visit to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios is sponsored by Campus USA Credit Union. We'll be right back.
Hey there. I'd like to make a deposit, please.
Well, yes, sir, of course.
Let's see. 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits.
$1. All right, you're all set.
Thanks. See you tomorrow, Maggie.
I'll be here, Coach, as usual.
Put some star power to work in your financial life. Visit campuscu.com or any campus service center today.
Timeout! Timeout! Hey, timeout! 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 There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Gators Dockside, wings, ribs, seafood, and beer. The best restoration, masters of disaster.
Bob in trouble, gets rid of it. Oh, big hit.
Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility.
Our touchdown sponsors are Radware Promotional Materials, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator BTW, Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Miapa Latin Cafe, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Okita America Martial Arts and After School, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, UF Mover Guys, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa, Wrap Spot, Cold Stone Creamery, Gator Dominoes.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
Welcome back to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Coach Steve Spurrier, I'm Shane Matthews. Very fortunate to have Coach in today. We appreciate him coming in. Coach, we got a lot of people sending texts and Facebook Live messages wanting to know, when is your restaurant going to open up here in town?
Yeah, it looks like now it's going to be mid-October to maybe even late October, somewhere in there during football season. But, yeah, we're really all looking forward to Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Fred Wiebe, Swain Durkle Bolton, Ryan Frankel, and myself are sort of all involved in this restaurant and out at Celebration Point. Beautiful location there now. They're putting the finishing touches on it. We'll have 3 or 4 private dining rooms and actually space for a 50 or 60 seat facility also. And the rooftop bar, Shane. I'll buy you a beer someday.
I appreciate that, Coach. We'll put it on your tab.
All right.
So the rooftop bar is going to be called Visors, right? And I believe you're going to have your own HBC type beer that's going to be served here.
Yeah, we're talking with the people down at First Magnitude about brewing up some kind of a little HBC light beer or so forth, and we'll have that available there at the restaurant.
What kind of food can we expect to have on the menu? I mean, is there one of your favorite items?
Well, American cuisine, I guess, is what we call it. We'll have a little bit of everything. There'll be some good steaks, but we're not really a steakhouse, and we'll have the pasta, Italian dishes and so forth, and maybe even some Mexican type food, as well as chicken and seafood and so forth. Hopefully it'll be a variety of a menu that everybody will be happy with.
Now, One of my favorites was, your wife, Jerry, who was like a mom to all the former players. On our birthdays, we got her famous chocolate chip cookies. Please have those on the menu.
Toll House cookies. Yep. I've already talked to Jerry about that.
Okay.
And
her special recipe.
she also has a pecan pie with a scoop of ice cream on it that is the best I've ever tasted. We only do that usually at Thanksgiving and Christmas, though. So the pecan pie would be for special events.
Gotcha. Now, how much of your memorabilia is going to be there? Will the Heisman Trophy be on display?
Oh, yeah. The Heisman will be there and several other championship trophies that we've had here at Florida, or individually coach of the year honors and stuff of that nature. But we'll have a memorabilia section there also, and we'll have hopefully some names of our players on different items. We're hoping Ike Hilliard will be okay with the Hilliard catch of the day.
Speaking of him, he just got hired as the wide receiver coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, Ike is a wonderful person, Shane. He came back and did Mr. Two Bits this past season. I got a chance to spend a little time with Ike, but he's been in the NFL as a coach now for quite a while, and he'll do a super job there at Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Coach, I want people to know, I've heard this story. You can kind of tell it briefly, how you kind of became the coach here at the University of Florida, and when did you know or have a feeling that you had the it factor when it comes to coaching? Because I think certain coaches, they know X's and O's, they can draw up plays, but it's having the knack of when to call plays. When did you realize you had that special gift?
Oh, I don't know if I ever had a special gift.
Well, certain people are born with it. You know?
I learned how to coach, and I've said it many times, at Duke University. The first year, Coach Dickey, first of all, gave me a chance to coach at Florida. He got fired. I'm out. And the quarterback coach at Georgia Tech left for a bigger job. And Pepper Rogers, my coach here at Florida one year, hired me as quarterback coach up there. So I got to stay in coaching, and then we all got fired up there. And I'd met the Duke University football coach that summer during spring recruiting, and went up for an interview and got hired at Duke. And, of course, my friend said, Steve, nobody survives Duke football. You'll be fired in 2 or 3 years. Nobody wins at Duke. You're not going to win at Duke, so you're going to get fired and your coaching career will be over. Said, you need to go work for, like everybody goes work for Nick Saban now. Mm-hmm. That's what the people told me. Go work for a guy that's going to win all the time. And that's how you advance in the coaching business. Dan Mullen hooked up with Urban Meyer at, I think, Bowling Green starting out.
Yep.
And that's how you do it. Nobody goes through Duke University, but I said, listen, this is the only school that's offered me a job. And Coach Wilson gave me a chance to be the coordinator and to put in all the plays. He said, we don't have an offense here. You can make it up, call it whatever you want to. So away we went, and we trial and error. Can you see this? Can you see that? All right, we're going to run this route against that and that route against that, and away we go. So I was able to just sort of experiment, and man, you had to demand those guys play well. We couldn't be an average offense, or I'm fired down here. I tell people all the time I'd be selling insurance for Alan Trammell down in Orlando or somewhere if the coaching hadn't made it. But just trial and error, and knowing we got to play not good on offense, we had to play great on offense, and we led the ACC. My last 2 years there as an assistant coach, and got the bandit job out of that.
Scroll back down there, Ted. I want to read Chris's comment to Coach. Coach, he says, Chris says, hey, this is Chris. Tell Coach thank you so much for seeing my brother at Shands Hospital when he was sick. Those were the best days of my life meeting him, and now I'm a head coach because he done as a young person in my life. Thank you so much. Thank him. Mm-hmm. He used to call my mom and check on her all the time after my brother passed away. I cannot have enough words to tell him thank you. So appreciate you listening to the show. I'm sure Coach had a good time doing that. We got a text here. Dan Mullen, what does the HBC think of the job he is doing, and can you predict the future?
Dan Mullen.
No, he wants to know Dan Mullen. What do you think of Dan Mullen?
Oh, Coach Mullen has done a super job.
Dan didn't text in. You thought Dan was texting?
Well, I thought you said here's Dan Mullen. Now, Coach Mullen has done a super job. There's no question about that, man, to come in here with but like he told me, he didn't tell a lot of people, he said, we got better players here than I thought. Mm-hmm. I said, I know we do. And you can't tell anybody right now, but all they needed was a little coaching and a little enthusiasm, a little attitude adjustment, and that's what Dan and Todd Grantham and all these coaches, Nick Savage too. To me, after your defensive coordinator, your strength conditioning coach might be your most valuable guy because he gets them all year long. There's no time constraints on except when you have to give him that day off. The strength and conditioning coach. So that guy is really, really important to your program, and Nick Savage is one of the best.
I got a text here on the Titan MR text line. Jack from Atlanta says, how is your golf game and what's your favorite course you've ever played?
My golf game is not near as good as it used to be. And so I don't play as much as I used to play. I thought I'd be playing a whole lot right now, but for whatever reason, it's just not quite as good. But I'm still playing. In fact, I'm playing a week from Wednesday in the Pro-Am down at the Honda Classic.
Okay.
One of the car dealers in Columbia invited me down, about 10 years ago, and I've sort of off and on played in that a bunch of times. So I'm playing in it. Those Pro-Ams you can sort of hit and pick up if you don't hit it very well and so forth. So looking forward to doing that again this year. But, yeah, I'm still playing a little bit, but not quite as much as I used to.
Betty from Jack's text on the Titan MR text line, what do you miss the most about coaching college football?
I think you miss the most for me is the practices and working with the players, and then the game itself. I hear all these coaches talk about developing the young man. That sounds good and all that, and that's what we do. But we're all in charge of holding your players accountable to do what they're supposed to do and do what's right and those kind of things, and we try our best to do that. But then after that, it's all come down to winning and losing, and coaches are hired to win and do it the right way. Don't cheat, things of that nature. But you're hired to put a team together to win the game, and to win, you've got to really build teamwork. And so if you're doing things to win, then you're helping a young man prepare for life also. So the preparation, but the game itself was probably the most fun for me, the game itself. I've heard some coaches say this would be a wonderful profession if we didn't have the games, the wins and losses. But there's some people like that. They like the press conferences, they like the booster meetings and all that. But the game itself, I think, was the biggest part of coaching that I love.
Alan from Mobile texts, do you ever think about if you never left the University of Florida for the NFL, would you still be coaching here?
I don't know if I'd still be, but hindsight, I wish I'd stayed. Back in those days, college coaches, if you were fortunate enough to go to the NFL in the latter part of your career, I thought that'd be a smart thing to do. Back then, you could almost triple your salary going to the NFL. So a lot of coaches thought, well, I'll have a good run in college and then coach up there a few years and then hang it up. And sometimes what you think now, later on, you look back and say that wasn't very smart. But yeah, I wish I'd stayed here another 7 or 8 years, something like that maybe. But back then, most coaches would retire, resign, quit, whatever you want to call it, at about 60, 62 or 3. And now they've realized, why do you quit at 62 if you can go to 70 and so forth? So anyway, you can still coach into your 70s. I think it's a little harder to recruit because everybody says, well, he's not going to be there but another year or so.
Right.
So that's what sort of hurt us probably a little bit at South Carolina the last year or so.
Butterball's text, speaking of cheating, what do you think of the Houston Astros scandal?
Shane, that's interesting. They're talking about there's different levels of cheating. Everybody talks about stealing signals. Well, I think somebody called the Feinbaum show the other day and said that FSU actually videoed me doing the signals one game, and they tied it in with the plays and all that. And they may have. I don't know if they did or not, but to me, that wasn't illegal. I know that sometimes we'll have a grad assistant up in the box, and if he's watching the other guy signal in the defenses, he said, "Coach, I got your signals now." I said, "Well, tell me what they are."
Right.
And they do the same thing to us. So we all know as coaches, that's part of the game. If you're not smart enough to hide your signals, that's it's okay if the other guy steal them. It's okay, and I'm okay if they stole my signals. But what they did, Houston, their level went to another degree with the secret cameras out in center field and the video and this, that, and the other. When there's a player on second base and he's looking at the catcher and trying to give a signal to the batter, that's part of baseball. But what they did was that extra level that they shouldn't have. So I don't know how they're going to handle it, but it'll be interesting. But there's different levels of, I guess, what they call cheating.
We got a text from Mike in Mount Plymouth. He says, Coach Spurrier, did you invent the play out of the I formation where the whole team goes to the right and the running back is tossed the ball and runs to the left? I had never seen it before until the Gators ran it. Now everyone does it.
The old cutback play?
No, I think he's talking about the little flip at 9 where you the quarterback reverses, fakes to the fullback, and then
that flip at 9?
Flip at 9.
Yeah, I don't think I invented that one, but that one's been around a while, and it is just a key breaker. We ran it with the Apollos several times, 2-point play and so forth. And I don't think I invented that one, though.
Georgia Gator in Valdosta says, Coach, you lost several defensive coordinators to become head coaches. Why do you think you never lost an offensive assistant to it being a head coach?
We didn't have an offensive guy. I don't guess we did, did we?
Wait, Carl Franks. Didn't Carl Franks?
Yeah, Carl did. Running back coach. He got a chance to go to Duke and so forth. But actually, we had, in my 12 years here at Florida, of the 7 SECs we won, we had 5 different defensive coordinators in 7 of those championship years. So, but we only had 1 offensive coordinator. So the guys didn't have to learn any new offense all those years, whereas the defense may have learned a little bit different stuff here and there. But, we had Bobby Stoops. Who else went? Bobby Pruitt went to Marshall, had an outstanding career, really did at Marshall and so forth. And so forth. I don't have the answer for that one.
Chris from Orlando says, ask Coach how he evaluates his quarterbacks and how he plan to develop their skills.
Okay, one of the most important qualities of a quarterback is courage. He's got to stand there and throw it when he knows he's going to get hit, maybe right after he throws and so forth. And that's all of the great ones we had here at Florida could do that. Starting with Shane, going right on down the list to Rex Grossman at the end there. So you got to be tough. You got to stand in there and make the play. And, of course, you have to have talent to throw the ball. And all these guys have that ability to throw. And after that, get guys open, look them off a little bit, and play the game. But courage and competitive fire, I think, is a big thing that the great quarterbacks have. And I tell you, Joe Burrow, he's a competitive guy. I liked watching him play. Didn't you, Shane?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
He had it all. Mm-hmm.
Coach, you were one of the first coaches to make $1 million, and then the first NFL coach, I believe, to make $5 million. I guess you were the one that opened the door to these coaches making these astronomical salaries now. I think Dabo made over $9 million. Do you think it's ever going to come back down, or is it just going to continue getting more and more for these coaches?
Well, the television is what's making all these guys the big money, and that's just the way it is. Colleges now with the SEC network, I think they get around $45 million per team, all the way across the board in the SEC. So every school has plenty of money, and I think that's the big reason these coaches are making so much. I don't think that athletic directors are real smart sometimes when they hire these guys to 5-year contracts with huge buyouts. And I really think these huge buyouts may tend to lead to some complacency for some coaches. I mean, if they don't win, some of them could justify and say, well, I'm going to make the same amount of money if I don't coach. So maybe I'll just get fired and take the money, which, it's tough to say, but the incentive to do that is there for some people.
We got about 6 or 7 more minutes with Coach Steve Spurrier. If you want to send us a text on the Titan MR text line. Lou says, what do you think of Charlie Strong going to Alabama as an analyst?
Yeah, I think we talked about that earlier. These guys go to Alabama and they get head jobs. Athletic directors around the country, they seem to think if you work for Nick Saban or if you work for whoever, some of these big-time coaches, then that will make you a good coach. Interesting, Vince Lombardi, one of the greatest coaches of all time, I don't think any of his assistants went on to have real successful coaching careers. So just because you work for Nick Saban, I don't think that makes you a great coach. Certainly you can learn some stuff, but you have to, like you said, Shane, you have to have your own special input into your type of coaching to be successful.
Hank texts and says, why is it so hard for most coaches to walk away from coaching? It seems like when they retire, a few years later, they're back in it.
Yeah, you sort of get bored. Yeah, I tell people all the time, the fire and the adrenaline of being on the sideline is something that doesn't quite go away, I don't think. There's been times I'll be sitting up the stands these Gator games and say, man, I'd love to be down there calling some ball plays. I don't want to be there going recruiting for 10 out of 12 months now or whatever they do. I don't want to do that. But just being in the fire and calling the ball plays and stuff like that is just a thrill. I think all coaches that have had some success, they sort of miss that and look forward to maybe doing it again. George
texts on the Titan MR text line, who was the most difficult defensive coordinator you coached against while at University of Florida?
Well, usually it was a team of the best players. FSU, of course, always had really, really top players, and that's one of the big reasons they were so successful all those years. So they were tough to go against. Who were some other teams that were tough to go against? We generally we did okay against Alabama a lot of times, but they were pretty tough. I don't know. All the games we lost, it was like 36, 33, 38, 35. So it wasn't so much the other team's defense. It's just some stuff happened that we ended up losing a close game.
Bobby texts, will you coach in the XFL if asked?
I don't really think so right now, but you never know what's going to happen down the line in the future. I do think that XFL's got a good chance to be around for quite a while. Their games are on television every Saturday and Sunday on the major networks. So I think they're getting decent ratings, and their crowds, the winning teams will have good crowds. I know that Dallas is at Seattle this year. Seattle had about 30,000 at their opening game, and they'll have probably that again this week. So I know I'm looking forward to watching them, and people that love football, I think will watch.
We got Coach D. Spurrier in studio for a few more minutes here in the Crime Prevention Security System studios. Coach, getting back to the Gators this year, obviously a lot of excitement with what Dan's done. Would you say right now, going into next year, we're the favorite in the East? We have so many players coming back. You know, Georgia, obviously they're recruiting crazy, but they lose their quarterback. They lost their offensive line coach, who's now the head coach at Arkansas. I guess until we beat them, we're not the favorite, but I think we've kind of narrowed that gap.
Yeah, definitely so. But Georgia will be picked. They'll be picked. They've been, first or second in recruiting the last 3-4 years, something like that. They've actually replaced Alabama as number one. And then Clemson's in there with them too, I guess, right now. But, it'll be we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but right now it looks like the game in Jacksonville will be a huge game, just like it was last year.
Speaking of Clemson, you're pretty close to Dabo, and when you were at South Carolina, you kind of owned him for, you won 5 straight games, and then what allowed Clemson to turn that program around so quickly and be a powerhouse?
Well, actually, those years we were beating them, Shane, they were pretty good. Dabo would tell you there's only 2 teams we lost to. They lost to Jimbo at FSU, and they were losing to us. They beating everybody else. In fact, he won the conference championship, I think, 2 or 3 of those 5 years that we beat them, and so forth. And they went on and win the bowl game usually also. So we just played really well against Clemson those games. They'd have 3 or 4 turnovers. We'd have usually maybe 1 at most, and nothing critical. But he had Sammy Watkins and all those receivers all over the NFL back in those days. They just didn't play well, and we played extremely well. But Dabo's a good coach, wonderful. He's really a good guy, and he's got that program at a very high level. Clemson, they pack in 80,000 plus people every game, no matter if they're playing Furman or Wofford, it doesn't matter. They pack that stadium, and they got it going pretty good right now.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you joining us here in studio. It was a treat having you in. I know everyone was excited to see you. Tomorrow's show, we have Brent Beard talking college football. Cornelius Ingram, former Gator, head coach over at Hawthorne, will be on the phone lines with us. And then Friday, James Bates will join us. Today's show is a wrap brought to you by WrapSpot. A vehicle wrap from WrapSpot will give your business years of brand recognition and increased sales. Call WrapSpot today. We'll see you tomorrow. All right.